On the cold, fog-bound coast of southeastern Alaska, there is a sound you are told never to follow. It might be a baby crying somewhere out in the dark trees. It might be a familiar voice calling your name from the water. The peoples who have lived on this coast for thousands of years carry a warning about that sound. Do not go to it. Because in the old traditions, it may not be human at all. To understand that warning, you first have to understand the land it comes from. This is southeastern Alaska, a long ribbon of islands, mountains, and deep, freezing fjords known as the Alexander Archipelago. It is the homeland of the Tlingit and Tsimshian peoples, who have lived here for countless generations. It is a place of dense rainforest, endless rain, and water cold enough to kill a person in minutes. And in the traditions of this coast, it is not empty wilderness at all. It is a world alive with spirits, some helpful, some indifferent, and some, in the stories, that hunt. Among the most feared is a being the Tlingit call the Kushtaka, more commonly known today as the Kushtaka. The name is usually translated as land-otter man. In these traditions, the Kushtaka is a shapeshifter. It can appear as an otter, slipping through the kelp and the tide. It can appear as a person, sometimes in the stories, even as a familiar face, a friend or a relative. And its attention, in many of the old tellings, falls on the same kind of person: the lost, the drowning, the ones alone in the cold. When a traveler becomes lost in the forest, or a person falls into the freezing water, the stories say the Kushtaka comes. Often, it does not attack with force. It calls. It is said to mimic the cry of a baby, or the scream of a woman, and in some stories the voice of someone you trust, drawing the victim off the path and toward the water. What the tradition says happens next is where the legend becomes truly unsettling. In some tellings, the Kushtaka simply destroys its victim. But in the versions the people of this coast feared most, it does something stranger. It transforms them, turning a lost human into a Kushtaka, one of its own. In Tlingit belief, this was understood as a kind of spiritual catastrophe. A person taken this way had their soul trapped, unable to pass on or be reborn. That is why the Kushtaka was not treated as a simple campfire story. It sat at the meeting point of two very real things: the danger of the wilderness and the deepest beliefs about the soul. It's worth noting that the tradition is not only one of menace. In some tellings, the land-otter people rescue those freezing or drowning, taking them in rather than destroying them, though even that comes at the cost of becoming one of them. The Kushtaka, in other words, lives on the boundary between salvation and loss. For generations, accounts have circulated along this coast. Trappers and fishermen who described otters behaving in ways that felt wrong, too curious, too deliberate, watching from the water. Travelers who said they heard voices in the fog, calling where no one should have been. People who became disoriented near the shore and felt, with total certainty, that something was trying to lead them away. It is worth saying clearly, these are accounts and traditions, passed down and retold, and the most dramatic versions have grown in the telling. They are not police reports, but the consistency of the warning, "Do not follow the voice," is striking. So how might we understand the Kushtaka? There are, as always, more grounded explanations offered by outsiders. The first is the otter itself. River and sea otters are intelligent, social, and unsettlingly expressive, and their calls can sound strange and almost human across the water. To people living intimately with these animals, an otter that lingered and watched could easily take on a darker meaning. The second lies in the water and the cold. A person who falls into freezing water or becomes lost and hypothermic can suffer confusion, panic, and even hallucinations. They may hear sounds that aren't there. They may walk toward the very danger they should flee. Seen this way, the legend may be something deeper than a monster story, a survival lesson carried across thousands of years. A way of telling every child on this coast, when you are lost and cold, do not trust the voice in the fog. Do not go to the water. And the third understanding is the one the tradition itself holds, that the Kushtaka is real, a spirit of this place, as much a part of it as the tide and the rain, and not something for outsiders to explain away at all. Today, the coast at the heart of these stories is much as it always was. Still cold, still wrapped in fog, still capable of taking a life without warning. The Tlingit and Tsimshian communities are still here, and the stories are still told, with care and with respect. And the warning at the center of it all remains, in its way, simple and true. The wilderness can take you. It does not always announce itself. And not every voice that calls your name is a friend. Maybe it's the otters. Maybe it's the cold and the mind. Or maybe, in the world these traditions describe, there is something older out in that gray and dripping forest that has been listening all along. So what do you think is calling out there in the fog? If you have a theory, leave it in the comments. And for more legends and disappearances from the far north, subscribe to Vanished North.